Welcome to Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. I'm your host, Brian Heater. Each week, I'll have a different guest join me to explore a pair of interesting gins. We'll chat a little bit about the gin and the distilleries, throw in a bit of trivia, hopefully laugh a bit, and then we'll go off the beaten path. Although I say that this is a podcast about gin, really this is just an excuse for me to spend time with my friends. But that'll just be our secret. Okay, let's start exploring. My guest today for episode 6, Andy Jester, although I prefer to call him Drew. Drew, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So today in episode 6, we're doing something a little different. All the previous episodes, all the drinks have been just gin and tonics. That tends to be how I like to imbibe my gin. But you came up with the idea around Christmas of...
We don't want to wreck the taste of the gin, by adding all these fancy ingredients.
Exactly. But we're doing cocktails. So we're having 2 cocktails with 2 different gins, actually 2 different styles of gin. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But why don't you introduce the drink that we are trying in the first segment today?
Today we are going to try the original martini. The original martini as it was first created, so I was told.
Okay.
So everyone drinks vodka martinis, which are basically just chilled glasses of vodka. Or worse yet, the stuff that gathers in the bottom of the dumpster after a rain, a dirty martini. Like, who would drink that? Yeah, I want to drink olive brine. Like, I don't get that. But people do. I don't get that, but you know,
yeah, I don't.
Some people like AC/DC too, and I don't. But
exactly. Yeah. To each their own, right?
To each their own, right? But this is the original as it was taught to me when I lived in San Francisco about 20 years ago. So every drink kind of has a genesis to it, right? So people will say, oh, well, the sidecar was made here, or the Bloody Mary was made there. Well, the martini, most people agree that it was made somewhere in the Bay Area, I believe. So these old-time bartenders have told me. And actually one of them, who was actually one of the first folks I ever met in San Francisco when Ann and I first went there for my interview, almost 22 years ago. His name was Bill Hogan, just the type of guy that you would imagine by the name Bill Hogan. Just tough old Irishman who knew how to kick people out of his bar, knew how to make drinks. And I saw him making one of these. And
was the bar called Hogan's Heroes?
It was called, I think it was called La Roca's Tavern. I don't even know if it's still there anymore. Okay. La Roca's Tavern, it was in North Beach. I got to know him and his barback, Tony Bosky, really well. Tony was a cool guy. He went to Berkeley back in the late 60s. So you can imagine the amount of brain damage he occurred, but could still make hell of a drink. And both of them have since passed away. But since before Bill passed away, he showed me how to make this. I saw him making it one day, said, what are you making? And he said, I'm making a martini. And I said, that doesn't look like a martini. And he said, that's because you don't know how to make a martini. One of those guys. And then I got to know him better, and he explained to me that the Martinez, named after Martinez, California, I think, not too far from San Francisco, was kind of like the grandfather of the modern day martini. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's been shortened to martini from Martinez. So this is a lot like a Martinez, I guess, but with different proportions and somewhat different ingredients that led it to be the martini. So people would walk into these bars and Martinez and say, hey, I'll have one of those martinis. And then it just started sticking as the martini. And then this was the original martini. So unlike, you want me to kind of go into the ingredients a little?
Yeah, well, let's try it first.
All right. Yeah, you have to let me know what you think.
I want to try it. Oh.
You like it?
It's pretty tasty.
The chef is extraordinaire here.
Okay, why don't you, let us know what the ingredients are for the original martini.
So the first thing that he told me that makes this martini very different than a lot of other martinis is that it's made with a different style gin than what most people drink. A lot of times, especially, I guess, here in the U.S. or maybe just within the Midwest, I'm not sure, but we drink a lot of the London dry gins that I grew up with that my family over-imbibed in. Things like Tanqueray and Beefeater, those are just kind of more London dry gins,
yes.
Right, Brian?
Yep, they are.
And this is made with an Old Tom style gin. Heyman's is the brand that I made this one out of.
Okay.
And we can get, I guess, into the nuances of the difference of those.
Yeah, I'll talk about the gin, because this is is actually the first time I'm trying a gin I've never had before. I've never had, not only have I never had, I believe, a Hayman's gin, I am almost positive I have never tried Old Tom, which is a style of gin that we'll talk about as well. So, okay, but it's got the Hayman's
So it's got
gin.
the Hayman's gin as the base, and unlike a lot of martini drinks, particularly like dry martinis, where it's made with gin, London dry gin, or none, if they just kind of wave this dry vermouth bottle over the top of the glass, as they say, or a tiny bit, and then they just throw it away, which always seems like a waste of good vermouth to me. This is made with sweet vermouth.
Okay.
So you actually start off with Hayman's Old Tom gin, and then sweet vermouth, a good sweet vermouth. Unlike the dry martinis where you just throw away the vermouth.
My sister Lori has discovered some really good sweet vermouths in Spain.
Sweet vermouths are great.
Yeah, we tried them like just straight.
I love sweet vermouth.
And I was not a fan at all of like regular vermouth, like at all. It tasted like, if you could liquefy the desert, that is what it tasted like to me. So
I think sweet vermouth is so underrated because it adds a complexity to drinks. It's got the floral and the herbs, all those different flavors that when it's mixed in the right proportion in the right way with the right alcohol, be it like a gin that has so many different flavors already in the gin itself, it can really complement it. It's like salt and pepper to me. And then after that, you add a little bit of maraschino liqueur, so not the red stuff that comes in the jar with red maraschino cherries. Like maraschino liqueur, I think the brand is Luxardo, something like that. I'm probably mutilating that.
That's okay. I pronounce everything wrong on the show. It's fine. I'm lucky I got your name right.
20 years of learning Spanish, everything comes out with a Spanish accent with me. So maybe that is not how it's pronounced. And then I add a little bit of bitters to mine. I think the original recipe may have called for like some sort of different flavored bitters. A lot of times they used like orange blossom water a lot in the old days and that kind of thing. In San Francisco, at a lot of the higher end bars, they'll have little glass jars of like rose water or orange water.
Okay.
I've seen them add that. I just used plain bitters with this. And then I always take a little orange, not the juice, but just the rind on the outside. And I just kind of like rub it on the outside of the glass and throw it in there just because it adds a little bit of the orange flavor.
And when you were making the drink, you also said you preferred to stir it, not shake it. You were using what I believe is the longest spoon I've ever seen. Did you get it from like
huge spoon.
The Dr. Seuss collection?
It's from a witch's cauldron. Okay. But gin drinks, and I don't know why. Again, it's probably because the Irish in me. I come from a long line of professional drinkers. But gin, I always stir.
Okay.
Vodka, I always shake. I just think that the gin drinks always just seem to be colder, and they hold up a little bit with the complexity of their flavors when they're stirred. When you shake it, it just seems to lose some of those like underlying flavors that go into gin. So I always stir mine.
Well, nice.
And I stir them for a long time, too, so they really get cold.
You did. I didn't think we were going to be able to start the podcast.
Well, no, I'm still out there. I'm still stirring right now.
No, it's really good. So a little bit about the gin and the distillery. So Hayman's Old Tom Gin, this came out in 2007. And when I was researching this, it ends up... This was like the first Old Tom gin that really kind of showed back up on the scene. And since then, a lot of other distilleries have started putting this out. So, as listeners, my 3 listeners have heard before, the Gin is In, which is one of my favorite websites, describes the tasty notes for the Hayman's Old Tom Gin as hints of playful pine immediately greet you. A muscular lemon builds out most of the aroma, with a dash of a licorice root. That's how they describe the taste of it. So, and it really excels in mixing. So it is great for cocktails. It's almost as if it was custom designed for working behind the bar. So, now this comes from Hayman's Gin Distillery, which is based in London. A lot of the distilleries that we've recently covered are really relatively new. I think the oldest one so far has maybe been 10 years.
Oh, really?
That is not the case with Hayman's. It is run by the Hayman family, and it is the longest-serving gin distilling family in England. They've been making gin since 1863, so middle of the Civil War. in the U.S. Today, it is run by the 5th generation of the Heyman family. They're known for using the Heyman 10, which are the 10 botanicals on which all of their gins are based. And when you go into their website, when you take a look, they distill 13 different styles of gin, along with one vodka. So, now, in episode 5, when my guest Kelly was on, we had tried London Dry gin, and we kind of talked about what made a London Dry. So Old Tom gin is also a specific style of gin. So, and it is a gin that is typically sweet, while still maintaining an emphasis on the juniper-driven profile. Any gin has to have juniper in it. So, but it's considered a bridge between gin's original form, Genever, when it was sort of that style was originally created in the Netherlands, and then London style that we know today. What kind of distinguishes it from London Dry is London Dry, it's prohibited from adding any sugars or flavoring. They can just use the natural botanicals. Once they distill it, it's done. Old Tom, that style, really embraces the sweeter side. So they can add things after it's been distilled. So I know we're going to do our first round of trivia in a second, but I also found out a very interesting thing. Do you have a guess as to how the style of Old Tom gin got its name?
I have no idea.
I think you'll like this. Okay, hang on. I'm taking a sip. Sorry.
I will too, then I'll join you on that.
Okay. In episode 2, I believe it was, when Sean was on, we talked about the gin craze and how the government was really passed laws to like push gin like underground. So these underground gin joints would provide gin through a metal tubing that ran outside of the building. So these like pubs, these gin joints would advertise their tubes by having a cat-shaped plaque outside of their facility.
Cat, like the animal?
Cat like an animal, yes. And then customers would come up and they would put money in a slot under the cat's paw.
No.
And then through that tube, they would get basically like a measure of gin, like a shot of gin. And so it's basically named, the name comes from like the imagery of a cat.
Oh, really?
Old Tom cat. So it's sometimes great. So Old Tom gin is sometimes also referred to as Tomcat gin, but that's where Old Tom gets its name from them basically trying to sell it during their version of like Prohibition.
I like, and that was in England that they had?
That was in England, yes.
Okay.
So yeah,
wow, that is great.
Yeah. So I just thought it was really interesting, like doing the research for this episode because one, just Heyman's had been around so long. Mm-hmm. Like I could do literally 6 episodes if I just did 2 gins
of theirs.
2 gins of theirs each. Now the problem is I probably couldn't do it because I'm probably restricted to what I could buy in Michigan since they're based in London. But I was shocked at like how many different different styles that they made. And then just like I said, I'd never tried Old Tom gin before, so it was interesting to find out like what kind of distinguishes that. And it
definitely has a different flavor than
it's sweeter. And in segment 2, we'll try, because actually the cocktail that I am making, I am going to use a dry gin, not exactly a London dry, but more of an American dry. But we'll be able to actually really compare and contrast those styles as well. So real quick, would you like to do our first round of trivia?
Let's go for it.
All right, you are going first today. So let me pull out the first question.
Good thing I've only had a couple sips.
Exactly. Okay. Oh, geez.
I'll remember Tomcat.
Okay. Watenshi. I'll spell it for you. Watenshi. Watenshi. An exclusive gin that has a waiting list despite its 2,000 pound price tag. Uses botanicals from which country? And again, the gin is called Watenshi, and it's Watenshi.
I'm only going to take a guess here. Yep. I'm going to say Japan, because ding, ding, everything is expensive there.
No, you're right. You are absolutely right. I've never heard of this
Me either.
gin. I should ask for it for Christmas.
Go for it. When you get it, come bring me back.
Yeah. So now, do you know? Have you ever tried any other gins from Heyman's?
No, I have not. I specifically bought this because I was looking for an Old Tom gin, and I cannot remember the brand of Old Tom that the bartenders in San Francisco used to use.
They've also been using something different because this one came out in 07, and you were back in Grand Rapids already.
By that point, I was, yes. A lot of times what they'll, at least the way it used to be in San Francisco, they would kind of keep stuff below the bar, right? And I'm not talking about like the well. I mean, just the things that they would make any drink out of.
Yeah, yep.
And because some of the drinks that they make the most often are just right up front, you're not really seeing the brands that they're using. But I'm not sure. I know it's an Old Tom gin, though.
Yeah. No, it's a tasty cocktail. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever had the original martini before. Is that what James Bond always orders? Is it a martini?
He would get the martini, but he would say, shake and not stir. Right there, a mistake.
Exactly, yeah.
You got to stir, not shake. Right there.
And I'm sure you probably order like a dry martini because it's a dry gin in there.
Shake the dry vermouth bottle over it, as they say. Don't even pour it.
Oh, do you think a dry, that would be for the vermouth?
I bet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they say like extra dry, that means hardly any vermouth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not extra. It's kind of, it contradicts itself, right? You'd think extra dry would mean extra dry vermouth, but it means barely any. You just kind of waft it.
Wave it over the
bottle. It's just basically a glass of chilled
osmosis a little bit gets into the beverage.
Chilled gin, chilled vodka up. Which actually a good friend of mine in San Francisco always just ordered vodka up. That's all she ever got. Just vodka up. And that would be chilled, but never...
What do you mean vodka up?
Basically, think of a vodka martini without any vermouth in it.
Oh, so vodka?
Vodka. I'll just have a glass of vodka.
No, and then what else would be in it, though?
That's it.
Bitters?
No, just vodka.
Just vodka?
Just vodka. Like, open the bottle of Stoli. Wait, we can't even buy Stoli.
Wouldn't it even be cheaper to just buy a shot of vodka then?
You would think so.
And
then you're not paying the martini price.
I'd like a shot of vodka, and then can I have a glass with ice?
That's why I never drink vodka martinis. I think, well, I can get a cold glass of vodka a lot cheaper than I can a martini. So I want something complex. I at least want some vermouth in that darn thing.
Yeah. No, this is a really good cocktail.
Thank you.
Yep, I threw one of the little orange peels in there, and no, it's been a fun little.
Do you think it's got too much, enough, or the right amount of sweet vermouth in it? Because sometimes sweet vermouth can kind of, adds a lot of flavor to a drink.
I mean, I'll be honest, I had not even been introduced to sweet vermouth until this Christmas. So, but I would say in terms of this cocktail. Mm-hmm. Well, one, it's the only time I've tried it, but it's really good. I think it goes down smooth. Mm-hmm. So I think your measurements for this concoction worked out quite well.
I made it once or twice. Yeah.
Have you?
Some practice.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. So, well, we will take a little break here because I have to go and make our second cocktail, and then we'll be back for segment 2.
All right.
All right, we are back, and for our second cocktail in episode 6, we are going to try a Tom Collins.
Now, I'm very excited to try this. I've never tried a Tom Collins.
For real?
Unbelievable. As seasoned of a drinker as I am, I've never had a Tom Collins.
Well, here's the funny thing. I learned to make this drink in San Francisco.
Really?
This past fall, I was out visiting Jim, my best friend who lives in San Francisco. He was making a fabulous steak dinner, and he was like, make us a cocktail. And I was like, well, what do you want? He's like, Tom Collins. And I was like, how do I make it? And he's like, look it up. And anyhow, I figured it out. It turned out good. So we are going to try a Tom Collins. So give that a taste.
Was this summertime or fall or winter when you were in San Francisco?
It was right before Halloween.
Okay, so fall. Well, fall in San Francisco is the best time to be there. So
that's nice.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
I'm glad you like it.
Wow.
So, the ingredients for this Tom Collins are 2 ounces of the recipe I used called for a London dry gin. I didn't use I used a district dry gin. It's called from
district or Dista?
District. It's a dry gin.
District.
It's
okay.
Yeah, district. I'll go into it. So 2 ounces of gin, an ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, half an ounce of simple syrup, club soda to top it off, and then I garnished it with a lemon wheel.
It's very good. And I could get into trouble with this drink.
That is our beverage.
Yes, it is delicious. It's summertime.
Yeah, it's a good one. So, the gin that I used is called Vigilant District Dry Gin.
Vigilant District.
Yep. Okay. It is described as fresh and spicy up front, showcasing a delicious tart palette of flavors, including minty juniper, sweet marionberry, and finishing with a bright hint of Oro Blanco grapefruit and bergamot orange.
Ooh.
I don't know what most of that means, but that's how the
end sounds like goes. A lot of like fruit and oranges and grapefruit, which I do taste that in there, unless it's the lemons in there.
So here's the interesting. Well, I'll get to the interesting part, but the distiller is called Jose A. Magnus and Company. So the story starts about 125 years ago. Joseph Magnus made Murray Hill Club whiskey. So this started like around 1900.
I think they still make Murray Club, don't they? I'm sure they do.
Prohibition came about, and that put an end to this.
Oh.
So, fast forward about 100 years. One of his great-grandsons discovers a few carefully preserved bottles of Murray Hill. They get some experts together, they extract some, and they discover that it tastes great. So they basically like reverse engineer it. They end up opening a distillery in Washington, D.C.
This is Murray Club Hill.
In 2015, and they start making Murray Club
whiskey again.
So, but they also make two versions of gin. So they make what we are trying, which is their Vigilant District Dry Gin, which would be similar to like a London Dry. And then they also make a Navy Strength gin, which I'll probably do a future episode on. Navy Strength is just... It's a little more potent.
It's stronger proof.
It is.
But it's same flavor palette as like regular London Dry.
Yes, it just brings a little bit more oomph because they wanted to keep scurvy away out on the oceans. So they opened this distillery in 2015 in Washington, D.C. They distill bourbon and then those two types of gin. However, in October of 2020, guess where they relocated to?
Where?
Holland, Michigan.
What?
Yes.
From Washington, D.C.
Yes.
To Holland, Michigan.
Yep. So about a 30-minute drive for us.
They understand that 80% of the population in Ottawa County does not drink alcohol.
Yes. But what they wanted to do was reconnect to the legacy of their great-grandfather, Joseph Magnus. He used to summer in Odin, Michigan.
Oh. Okay.
So they decided to bring it back. So I'm thinking maybe this summer, road trip.
Road trip. I like that idea a lot.
We can go try both of their gins and maybe some of their bourbons.
So. I'm very glad they made that decision to come here.
Yeah.
Bring it here. It's very good.
So, now, as we have done in a couple of the other episodes, I have little samples of both of our gins that we made the cocktails with. But this will be slightly interesting because we have an Old Tom style gin and then a dry style gin. So which one would you like to start with for our tasting?
What was the description of the dry style gin again? So we can know what we're looking for in it. It was...
So I'll just say this. Based on the descriptions from earlier between the difference between a dry style gin and an Old Tom gin, what we should discover is that the Old Tom style that we try is sweeter than... So Heyman's... This style of Heyman's should be sweeter than this Vigilant.
Okay.
So,
because they called this something spicy, right? Or
yeah, that was the description. I mean, they jazz it up a little bit.
I think they do.
So,
well, let's try it.
All right, you want to try the District Dry? So
we'll try that. We'll go back and forth.
We're gonna try. Well, no, we'll try Vigilant.
Throw it back.
We'll try Vigilant.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't know if I can throw this back. Holy hell!
It's pretty smooth.
It's smooth. Doesn't taste too medicinal. Sometimes, like, some gin can have that kind of medicinal taste to it.
Yep.
I don't think it tastes too medicinal.
No, not at all.
Certainly doesn't need to be cut with anything. It's not one of those gins that you drink like, oh my gosh, hand me the gallons of soda or a tonic to try to drown it out. I like it though. I think it's good.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the Vigilant, the dry. Now let's give the Heyman's Old Tom.
Oh boy, one after another like this. Holy cow.
Cheers.
Wow, completely different.
Definitely sweet.
100%, night and day. It is sweet. I would say more floral notes in the Old Tom, to me.
And I would also say it was a little smoother going down, in my opinion.
The Old Tom was smoother than the first one?
Both were smooth, but I felt this one was a bit smoother.
Less of the burny.
Yeah, I would say that. Not that either one was super burny.
I don't think either one burned. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I think they're both good. I think if I was to... Well, I won't say what I choose between the two. Which one do you choose if you're to drink it straight without anything mixed with it? If you're just having a sip on a shot of it, what do you prefer?
If I was just going to like pour it over ice, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Or neat.
If I was just going to pour it over ice, I would probably go with the Heyman's just because it's sweeter, and my preference always for gin is like a gin and tonic, right?
Yep.
And the tonic tends to make it slightly sweeter, in my opinion. So if I was going to just drink them straight, that's the one I would go with. But I will say, I've had this Vigilant. I was making gin and tonics with it during the World Cup. Thank God the games were only 90 minutes because I would have been trashed because they went down so smooth. I would make the gin and tonic with the Vigilant gin with Fever Tree, their Mediterranean style tonic. It's delicious. So, but I was going to say if I had to just drink one just on the rocks, I would go with the Heyman's, but just because on its own, I feel it's a little sweeter.
I would as well. I think that when it's being mixed with anything, I actually think the Vigilant one, when it's mixed with something light and not too sweet, like the drink we've got, right? We're mixing it with just fresh juice and soda water. I actually think this goes really well with it. And then I think the Old Tom, the Heyman's Old Tom, goes really well with anything a little bit, I'll use the word like thicker and a little bit sweeter with a little bit more like complexity to it.
Yeah, I definitely am going to have to get a hold of a bottle of the Heyman's, this Old Tom, because I'd love to try a couple of different tonics with it for gin and tonics.
Yeah.
But it would be great for cocktails. In fact, on your bottle, if you take a look at it, it recommends using this for a Tom Collins.
Really? I think that
So what I'm thinking is this summer on your deck,
I like that idea.
Make a Tom Collins at your house.
Oh, yeah. I think that the flavors within these two, to me, and maybe it's just because what it's been mixed with, but I think the Vigilant taste more crisp is the word I would use. More of like a refreshing, crisp taste, where the Old Tom tastes a little bit thicker and more, it kind of stays longer. That's what I think.
Now, I didn't, there wasn't a ton of information, but my guess is also that Heyman's may have more botanicals in it. So they, like I said, they use the Heyman's 10, so all of their gins are based off of like 10 botanicals. So that also may lead it to taste perhaps a bit more complex.
More of like a lingering taste, more of a stronger, I would say thicker. I know that's probably not the right word to use. Just more of a taste forward. Versus like afterwards with the Vigilant, I think.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Are you ready for round 2 of trivia?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Cleaned up the first time.
You get to ask this time.
Oh, whoa. Uh-oh. Are you ready for the question?
I was born ready. Not really. I was a month late. Never mind.
The label for Martin Miller's gin features an English flag and a flag of which other country? Iceland, Ireland, or Italy?
I know this because I've had their gin. It is Iceland, and the reason that Iceland is on there is they bring the water from Iceland down to distill their gin. And in fact, the distillery we talked about last week that also makes the Highclere Castle gin, that distillery also makes the Martin Miller. It is a very good gin.
So the water from Iceland, is it like a spring-fed sort of thing? Like Iceland, it's the last country in Europe I want to visit. I would love to visit Iceland and see where this comes from. There must be some sort of spring-fed water.
Okay, quick, I have a question that I'll come back to on that. But, what was your question? No,
I just said I'd love to visit Iceland and see where this water comes from.
You were asking about the water.
Super pure, spring-fed.
I don't know, like, if you read their bottle, I'm sure they give you something on it. But I just knew it was Iceland, and the reason is that they bring the water down, and they use that in their distilling process. And it's a really tasty gin. Okay, quick. When you say Iceland is the last place that you want to visit...
In Europe. The last European country.
Right. So in my head...
Or island, in this case.
In my head, though, that makes me think you want to visit every other country before you go there, because that's the last place you want to see.
No, that's just so you're misplaced modifiers after drinking gin.
I can't wait to get into Bulgaria.
No. What I mean is that I visited many other European countries, and Iceland is the last one that was on my top list to visit that I have not had a chance to visit yet. I have visited England, and I have visited France, and I visited Slovenia, and I visited Austria, and I visited Italy, and I visited Germany, but I have not had a chance to visit Iceland.
So of the countries that you have been to, which has been your favorite?
I would say, if I had to pick one for different reasons, I would probably say Austria.
Austria?
Austria. I would say Austria because it has that... the feeling of Germany, right? Which I love that. I love like the food and the culture, that German, they use the word in Germany like gemütlich, right? Like comfortable. I tell you, you pony up to a bar at about 10 o'clock at night in any little ski village in Germany, you'll know the definition of gemütlich. It's cozy, it's warm, you smell the wood burning, you're having a great beer, and all of a sudden everybody is speaking the same language, even though you may not know German and they may not know English. It's a great place. And I think that Austria has that, but at the same time, it has a lot of the aesthetic beauty at the same time with the mountains and the architecture within the buildings that you see like in France. So I would actually probably say Austria. Now, comfort-wise, I mean, you go to like England, I mean, there's no mistaking that, America was a British colony, right? I mean, it feels so familiar when you're in London, right? It feels, you could close your eyes and think you're in New York. So I liked that aspect, but at the same time too, I think that something a little different, like in Austria, would probably be my first pick.
I'll have to see. So in end of September and early October, my sisters and I are taking my mom on a Viking cruise. I think on the Rhine River. We're going from Basel, Switzerland to Amsterdam.
Oh, Switzerland too. I've been. Sorry.
No, that's good.
You'll love it.
And I would have to check. I don't know if we end up anywhere in Austria to start this or not. I don't know if that works from a geography standpoint.
Austria would be just to the east.
Yeah, so I don't think I'll see any of Austria. So, all right, well, I'll have to try that again someday.
Looks the same, very mountainous and good people. And I had wonderful times in Austria and Germany and just everywhere in Europe. I mean, Europe as a whole is just a wonderful place. The one place I'd love to visit also, and also besides Iceland, is also Poland. I have family that came over from Poland. I'd love to see the village or not village, it's a city that they came from.
I have some friends from my last employer, and they were in Krakow this fall, and they both really liked it. They had a lot of good things to say. I haven't been to many places in Europe, just in terms of like visiting and hanging out. France and Italy, but Italy is, I love it there. Although I will say, I'd heard mixed reviews on France, but I thought it was great. I loved totally it. Go back there.
Oh, I love France.
Yeah, it was so nice. I really enjoyed it there.
Yeah.
So
I had a wonderful time. The people are very welcoming, and the food was wonderful. And love to go there sometime.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready for Off the Beaten Path?
I think I am.
All right.
Yes.
And would you like to go first?
Am I walking off the beaten path here?
No, you're taking us off the beaten
path. I'm taking you off the beaten path. Oh, okay. Well, for Off the Beaten Path, 3 weeks ago, which I like to read, but I oftentimes end up reading the things that no one else on the face of this planet reads. Okay, I'm talking about things like, financial journals. Does that interest most people? No. The rise and fall of the stock market of 1929, right? Like that's what I end up spending my time reading, being a finance person. But the other day, was at the library and this book just jumped out at me, and I read a novel called The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I thought to myself, the cover of that book looks cool. which is always one of those things that either pulls you in and fools you, or pulls you in and you think, okay, well, maybe they had something there when they got it. But I read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I would recommend everybody reads who likes mystery, who might like Agatha Christie.
Okay.
Right? So it is that, but sci-fi mixed together. And I like both of those things. I like historic things, I like mysteries, and I also like sci-fi. So it's one of those books that when I started reading it, I thought, what was this guy thinking when he wrote this, right? You sit there and think to yourself, what is this about exactly? Did he have a general theme that he was trying to create? But the deeper you got into it, the more you're like, well, I have to read the next chapter and actually find out what's going on here. I have to read the next chapter and find out what's going on here. And I think that it's one of those entertaining stories that isn't about teaching you something, right? And that's most of the time what I end up reading. I end up reading things that are supposed to teach us something, right? Goes back to my academia background. But what it did was it entertained me, and it brought me into the shoes of one of the lead characters. And I think that is really neat. So I would recommend that folks read that book, spend a little bit of time diving into it, and I think they'll like it.
I am 95% sure that book is upstairs for me.
Read it. Oh my gosh.
Next to my stack of books. It got recommended from a friend. I just hadn't gotten it to it yet, but I think I'm going to give it a try.
If you like mysteries and you like sci-fi, it's one of those things where folks who are completely 100% against sci-fi, they probably won't like it so much because it does have a little bit of that that element in it.
Sure.
I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But I think that if you don't like that, you probably won't like that. But if you're looking for just a straightforward mystery, probably not. But if you're looking for something that's a really neat combination of both of those things that once you start reading, you can't put down, I'd highly recommend it.
Nice.
It's a good book.
Yeah, I love a good book. I love a good story. So, all right, my pick is not that I do it all the time, but often I love to try to tie something back into a theme of the podcast. So when I discovered that Heyman's Distillery had been had been around for so long, I was like, okay, what could I tie into this? So my choice this week for Off the Beaten Path is the movie The Prestige. Have you ever seen it?
I have not.
Okay, it is by Christopher Nolan, who is one of my favorite directors. He did the Christian Bale Batman series, Dark Knight and all those. He's done Dunkirk. I mean, he's got the new Oppenheimer movie coming out this summer. Basically, if he makes a movie, I'm going to go see it. The Prestige, which came out in 2006, is set in 1890s London. And it's a movie about rival stage magicians who basically engage in a clash to try to create the ultimate illusion.
So it's like a Houdini sort of thing, right? Based on Houdini?
A little bit, yeah. But it is just so well done. It's just got a very interesting, intricate plot. It has an amazing cast. It has Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson,
it's like
Andy
an all-star
Serkis,
cast. Holy cow.
and David Bowie.
David Bowie, what?
David Bowie plays Telsa.
Oh my gosh. How haven't I seen this?
Yeah,
I love David Bowie.
It is such an entertaining, well-done film.
What is the name of this?
It's called The Prestige.
The Prestige.
And I just, whenever I get a chance to catch it, I'll watch it. And it's just really well done. If you like a good sort of mystery, intricate, interesting plot, check this movie out.
I'm going to watch it tomorrow. Anything David Bowie is in it, maybe.
Yeah.
Sold right there. I mean,
yeah.
I want to go watch The Labyrinth right now.
No, it's just it's I'll admit I had sort of a hard time selecting this because I feel it's a movie a lot of people have probably seen or at least heard about. But if you haven't seen it, it is totally worthwhile to sit there and catch it. It is such a well done movie that's my pick for this week. So
perfect. I'm going to watch it tomorrow.
Well,
over a glass of Heyman's.
And then
Heyman's Old Time Gin.
I will check out your book soon because it's up on my tower of books.
Definitely. So, it's a good read. And you'll read through it quickly. It looks longer than it reads.
It's one of those quick reads.
I would say once you start reading
short chapters and you kind of get into it. And,
yes. Yeah. You definitely get into it and you can go right through it.
And you kind of can blow through those. Yeah, those are always good.
Yep.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much, Drew, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Anything else before we sign off here?
No, I appreciate you having me. I hope I can come back again sometime.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Also, I want to take a quick minute to thank Darin VanderMolen for all of his help behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast probably wouldn't even exist, and his help is greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great week, and we will look forward to seeing you the next time we go down the botanical trails. This has been a Shits and Giggles production.